Hey there, everybody. Just wanted to update you on my release schedule going forward. Anyways, Wednesdays are going to be reserved for, smaller videos, stuff that takes less work to get ready to upload. So, more gameplay and, episodes of Spiel, like the one you're about to watch. Hopefully, Fridays, most likely every other Friday, but hopefully every Friday if I can work fast enough will be, longer videos or at least more involved videos, episodes of Musings On as well as talking about pop culture stuff. Anyways, just thought I'd let you guys know before we get into it. And anyways, this episode was recorded in summer of 23 last year. Took a while for me to release it, mostly because of a big break, but hopefully starting around now with my more consistent release schedule, I'm going to be, you know, coming out with more videos more frequently. So, anyways, just thought I'd say that before we get into it. Hey there, everybody. It's Todd from the Emotional Tree Sheep, and welcome back to episode 4 of Spiel, the first episode of this series where I'm not wearing a hat because it's summer, it's hot, and this heat is just why living in the Midwest, for anyone else out there. Anyways, this is my friend Emily.
Yo.
And we're going to get straight into it. So, for our first topic, we're going to talk about books.
Books are fun. I love books. I've been reading books since I could read. Not even then. I would flip through picture books as a baby and entertain myself forever. Yeah. And then I grew up and the library was always my favorite place. It was like, you know what? I have friends. I could read a book instead. That was kind of my whole thing. I could read a book instead.
Yeah, I liked reading books as well when I was little. Mostly just if there was mostly if it looked cool.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, yeah. Hey, there's this thing in front of me. What's happening?
Cover art was always amazing.
Yes, and I must say that in our introductions here, if I heard right, I must question your word choice. Did you? It sounded like you said, I've been, doing stuff with books since I could read. But it sounded like there was a B in front of that. I'm just like, wait, what?
B, B.
B,
yeah.
Read.
Yeah.
Breathe.
Yeah.
What the
I live and breathe books. I literally have, shirts that are, bookmarks are for quitters. I just wear that around.
Yeah.
Unironically, I live and breathe them, and that's kind of shaped who I am today. And being such a nerd. I'm such a nerd in
Same.
every way, shape, or form. And then going to college, and then being super academic there. It's just me reading. It just gets me interested in things. It gets me just curious about everything. So it got me curious about what I want to do now. And so it was really nice.
Yeah. I suppose I have been mostly the same.
Yeah.
I have to admit,
with your whole thing about you want to be a creative writer, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Creative writing is something I am hoping to do.
Yeah.
It's so I think I wanted to be an author since I was little, mostly because there was all these cool stories out there, and I thought, ooh, I want to do that.
I kind of want to do that as a kid, but then my parents were like,
yeah,
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I like animals, I guess, and then I kind of went with that. I want to do genetic engineering, which everyone's like, what? But yeah, it's fun. I like it. Which, if anyone doesn't know, genetic engineering, you get to go into an animal's genes and fix genetic diseases that they have. Or if you want to take a pug, which sounds like it's dying with every living breath it takes, you can go into their nose and go, and then it won't be dying anymore.
Oh man.
You can do that with genes.
Oh man.
And I'm like, save the pugs and the French bulldogs and the regular bulldogs and everything. And I was like, But yeah, author was kind of shut down real quick in my past.
Yeah, I was actually thinking when you said genetic engineering, that reminds me, a lesser element of my favorite book series actually, Have you heard of Ark of a Scythe?
Mm, I don't think I have.
You might have heard of. Have you heard of? I mean, the first book is called Scythe. Have you heard of that?
Oh, like, is it like the scythe? Then is it like the book? Oh, is this the one where no one, if you die, like you don't really die, you just get brought back, so no one really fears death anymore, and these guys with like giant scythes go around and just murder people?
No,
No,
not quite.
that's a different scythe.
You've got the right. You're thinking of the right thing.
Okay.
But the description is not quite there.
Oh, dang.
The
There's another scythe.
the cover of the first book honestly really betrays the content, because you would think it's about people with giant scythes running around murdering people. But Ark of a Scythe by author Neil Schusterman is
Explain it real quick.
it's futuristic dystopia. I mean, there's so many dystopia stories, but it's a futuristic story where technology has advanced to the point that death is basically not a thing, or at least natural death is not a thing. You know, as in they have medical technology capable of bringing people back from, honestly, anything short of complete disintegration.
Right.
Fire is the only thing that their technology essentially can't reverse, because that is a destruction of matter. And society has advanced to the point there is no war, there is no disease, there's no hunger. It's basically the perfect society. But death still needs to happen, because obviously A, the Earth has a limited amount of space, and B, for all of the work of the benevolent AI that basically
this is the same book.
that basically runs the world.
So these guys named Size need to go around and choose like who dies,
Yes.
and then go and like say, hey, time to die.
Yeah, scythes are people whose job it is their whole life, essentially, to make sure that death still happens.
Yeah.
They don't call it killing, though.
They call it like.
They call it gleaning.
Yeah, it's the same book. Yeah, we're thinking of the same book.
Yeah, and the reason they call it that is because the whole thing of the scythes is they're supposed to be enlightened, almost. It's.
But then it's like you get into it. It's like.
You get into it, and it's like there's some questionable ethics going on in here.
Yeah, there is, and they, like, I guess minor spoilers, but like there's a guy that literally goes and just kills an entire plane of people, just because he can. Which I mean, yeah, I guess happens in real life, but didn't need to there. That's the thing.
Yeah, casually pulls a Homelander before Homelander was Homelander.
Yeah.
But the boys' comics did exist before this book. Speaking of which, the boys' comics are extremely weird. But that's a topic for another day when I'm talking about comic books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only read the Teen Titans comic books. I wouldn't know what that is. But yeah, it was a really interesting thing. Like thinking back on it now, I actually haven't thought about it with the new context that I have. It's like you could literally fix anything with this whole, like it's called CRISPR, which is like a thing that was found in bacteria that can go in and cut your genes. And you can insert anything, you can delete anything, so you can make a genome anything that you want. So if we take it in that context to a world where no one's like sick and no one dies unless they like set themselves on fire or like the scythes glean them, it's honestly a little bit scary, because then you know that humans have even more control than they have right now. And I'm like, okay, this technology is great, but like it's, always brings the question, how far should we go? And these books are like a gateway into everyone's opinion. Like, this is how far we should go. Like, there's 3 books in the Scythe series. The last one kind of brings up that death is constant, and you can't escape it.
Yeah.
You can't like do anything like anything like disease or heartbreak, whatever, will always be there, and there's nothing we can do to get away from it. Life, like quoting The Lion King, like the circle of life is always there, and we have to have our sun set so others can rise. Like Mufasa. But yeah, books often, like in English class, like gross English class, but I didn't like English class, honestly. I love writing and reading so much, but I hate English class, which is weird. always say books are either a window or they're a door. And I mean, these books are honestly a window to what we could be as a society or what we should not be as a society.
Yeah,
or kind of thing.
It discusses the consequences of technological progression and the ethics of death, and there's a lot of interesting philosophy you can gain from it, despite the reputation that a lot of teen slash YA dystopias tend to have.
Yeah, like I mean, it's not Twilight, but I mean like. But
it's not a romance thing.
No.
There is some romance in it, but it's done well. It's handled well.
It's kind of like in the background compared to, hey, let's discuss why or why not death should be important or why it does what it does. Like if anyone's seen Hamilton, have you seen Hamilton? Or like watched Angle.
I haven't seen it in person. I've seen enough of it for one of my classes.
Oh, you watched it in class? That's cool.
Yeah.
I watched it on Disney Plus when it came out because I thought it was rapping when I was in middle school and I hated rapping. So I was like, I'm not gonna watch it. Now,
oh my god.
And now I watched it on Disney Plus. I'm like, oh, middle school Emily, what? Why? Why did you do that?
Yes.
But anyway,
I am the same way when I think of myself when I was younger.
I was like, why? Why? Why were you an idiot? So anyway, in like one of the songs, their death is death comes from the sinners and the saints, and it takes and it takes and it takes, and I'm like, and it's just so true. Like, you can't stop it. It's one of those things that you just can't deal with. Like, you have to deal with it, or you're gonna suffer for the rest of your life. It's like, I know that death's coming for me someday. I don't know when it's gonna be, but I make peace with that. I have to live life as if every day is my last day, and there's so many songs about that. And you have to live life knowing that someday it could all end, and then you have to make your choices based on that. Like, do you want to be super rude to this person who's like annoying you, or do you want to say, you know what, this doesn't matter, I can move on and they won't affect me. If I could die tomorrow, what would that matter? And these books show us that. Like a lot of kids are like, ugh, books are for like nerds who want to read romance and see different worlds. I'm like, yes, but also, like, of course I want to do that. I mean, it's great. I totally accept that. But also, books are just, they can make you see things inside yourself that you didn't even know were there, and you can also realize things and push yourself forward to be a better person overall.
Yeah, the purpose of a book is twofold. It's the expression of ideas, but also the positing of a narrative, be it fictional or not, because it's just another medium of transferring information. It's discussing ideas about the world we live in, why do we live the way we do, and what are the implications of scenarios we can only begin to experience. The thing that really fascinates me about Archivist Scythe is the fact that on the surface, without all of the commentary about the nature of life, it is a almost perfect utopian society. The thing with so many dystopia / utopia books, but it's called dystopia because it's called that because society is perfect, but there's this giant elephant in the room that everybody's conveniently ignoring about why you can't make the perfect society unless there's brainwashing involved. Cough.
And even then, it's not perfect because there's brainwashing involved. I feel like that's utopian is such a flawed word.
Yeah, everyone is just pulling a different version of 1984.
Yes, honestly, utopia, it would only be possible if the emotions of mankind were the same as like dogs. We would not be like, with our such complex emotions that we have, we could not do a utopian society because there would always be something wrong. Because we can't help everybody, and honestly, people like to make problems even if there's really none there. And like, people like to complain, and people just love to do that. Like, whatever, it's just ingrained in our brain. The better our lives are, like if you look at people who live in like tribes in Africa, they have the best lives. They're so happy. Like if you watch YouTube videos of people who live with them for years, you're like, it is the best experience of their lives because they don't have all these great modern conveniences, and therefore they don't have like first world problems.
Mm.
So they're living their best lives because all they're doing is surviving. They're doing great at it because they're not dead.
Yeah.
So, like, honestly, the better life gets, the worse it gets. And that's, like, a huge lesson you have to know. It's like, yes, my life is great with all, like, I have electricity right now. That's great. But you also have to think, okay, what are my problems? And are they really that bad? Like, you have to think about that.
Yeah.
Like, what did I sacrifice to get these great things?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. Like, I know it sounds, like, real cheesy, but, like, the better your life is, the worse you'll feel about it. Money, like the whole common saying, money is the root of all evil.
It depends.
Depends on the money, but it, like, in the context that the more you have, like, the more you can complain about because you have more to reach, more to know, and therefore more to miss out on.
Yeah, I've discussed a lot with people in both this series and just outside of YouTube in life how much of life I think is connected to survival and evolution. Us sitting here in the modern day in the U.S., you know, we're pretty well off in terms of the whole scope of humanity. Our basic resources are met mostly, and there's relatively little risk of the same threats that once defined us, as in predators, the elements, and other groups of people.
Yeah, most likely a jaguar is not going to come walking in this room and say, "Hey, I'm going to kill y'all."
Yeah.
And go,
yeah.
Like, most likely not going to happen.
Yeah. The thing is that I think the reason that so much of our consideration of life is included, it has baked into it the feeling that something is often wrong, is because we have evolved as we did.
Yeah.
We have been, at least for so much of our species' history, under threat from those things I mentioned, but also other hominids. It's the fact that there was so much out there that could have completely ended us that we needed to be aware all the time. Something might go wrong. And when you have the necessary conditions, like we do, to live a fairly comfortable life, that discomfort doesn't have an outlet in some ways.
Right. And, like, scientists have, like, thought that, like, social anxiety, depression, like, all these, like, mental health issues can stem from that because we don't see threats that our brain thinks are there. Or it's like, oh, you don't have a predator attacking you, but that person just looked at you. And if the brain thinks that that's honestly almost the same. And that's what causes, like, they think that's one of the causes of, like, social anxiety and other, like, depression, like, other anxieties like that, and hypervigilance, is that our brains are too used to, after or hundreds of thousands of years of doing this, that our brains are way too used to just perceiving threats everywhere, even if they're not there. And that's honestly kind of scary that we think of our brains as like, oh my god, they're so awesome. They can like do these all the emotions. I'm like, yes, but sometimes they're just too good at their job.
Yeah. The human brain is just, in many ways, a really advanced computer program. It's like an AI learning with various generations. You know, if there's a goal that you're trying to get, like you're trying to make a little figure learn how to walk, or how to make a little blob move through a room, it keeps trying over and over again until it eventually learns the right way. We've learned a certain pattern, but society is not yet, at least, developed some necessary ways that we can stop that from harming us.
Right. It's kind of hard to do that because that takes generations, and that would take, honestly,
the amount of work it would take
so much work, and it would so much work, and so much money, and so much time to rewrite our brains and instincts as not even as a species, just as a animal, as a thing that lives and therefore has instinct and therefore it's hard to break. Like you wouldn't talk to a tiger and say, okay, you should probably just not think about getting prey all the time. And because they need it for survival, our brain thinks we need anxiety or whatever for survival.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably going to almost be impossible. I don't think we would ever be able to get rid of it unless we just ignore it, and it's hard to ignore instincts for a long time because they're in there, and it's hard to see them because it's a part of you. You can't be like, oh, I know that is my anxiety because I think that person is a threat and they aren't. Like that, it's hard to see that in yourself and say, okay, I recognize I am having anxiety and that is why, but it's hard to do that because it's part of you.
Yeah.
It's like saying my arm my arm is doing this thing, but you don't think about it. It's just happening.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a thing. It's hard. I don't know if we could do it.
It is hard. Not only because like the absolute amount of things that we need to be done, but the difference in perspectives that would need to be overcome is something I find interesting to think about.
Yes, fair.
Yeah, it is difficult to get two people, honestly, to agree on lots of things, even if they are very similar to each other, because we are shaped by the circumstances around us. To a point. The whole thing with the nature versus nurture debate, the cliche answer to so many questions is it's a mix of both.
Yeah.
And
like even getting someone to say either pineapple on pizza is the spawn of Satan or the best thing you could ever eat on this planet.
Yeah.
Like even getting people to agree on that, which is so trivial and so dumb.
I do not mind pineapple on pizza, at least from one place. There's a local pizza place around here that makes very good pepperoni pizza, and the Bill's, if you know that.
I only eat the one ice because I'm a Chicago style dish person.
Yes, we go there a good bit, but something like that, at least when it comes to a preference like food, it depends on, it's a more precise thing. At least it depends on what your body is looking for.
True. Like today, I would probably see something different than if I wanted pizza someday. Like, depends. Like there's days where like I really want a taco, and you get a taco, or there's days where it's like I really want a hamburger, and someone's like, ugh, hamburgers are gross, and you look at them like they just offended your entire family line, like dishonor on you, dishonor on your whole family, dishonor on your cow. And
hamburgers are like my favorite food.
They're good.
Gosh darn it.
Depends on where they're from.
Yes.
Like, I hate Portillo's burgers. They're the worst.
I learned to like burgers because of Portillo's, honestly. When I was little, my dad took me to a restaurant. Portillo's is a chain in the Chicago area for anyone who doesn't know. And he liked burgers when he was a kid, so he figured, hey, you should try this because should try various foods. I tried it. It was kind of charred because they cook it.
Always are.
Yeah, when they're good, they're like really good.
Yeah.
But it was kind of charred the first time I tried it. I was a little bit scared that he wouldn't be happy if I said I didn't.
Oh my god.
So I said I liked it, then tried it again, and from a couple different places, and I'm like, oh, I like this.
Yeah. See, it's like you had your dad have it for you for a time, which is why you like it. It's like shaped by the environment that you grew up in. It was kind of like me as well, but not for burgers. It was for sushi. So I was I don't even remember super much, but I was always brought to this sushi restaurant, Sushi Thai, as a kid, and because my mom and my dad love sushi, so they brought me there and they gave me sushi, and eventually, I just ate it so much. Now the prices have gone up a lot over the years, but I pay $50 every time I want to get sushi there because I get 2 rolls and an appetizer, and it's almost $50.
Wow!
But I still pay it because I love it so much.
Yeah.
But I would never have known it existed, and I probably wouldn't have liked sushi as much as I did if my parents were like, "Yeah, we don't like sushi."
Yeah, a lot of my tastes are very American.
Mm.
When the 2 times I've been out of the country, one of which you were there for.
I was there.
Because,
yeah, we went to
because high
Spain.
school.
That was
Because
fun.
high school.
That was high school. Yes.
Yes.
Spain trip. That was fun.
Yes.
I liked that.
Yeah. The 2 times I've been out of the country is I learned a lot. Like, wow, there's a lot of other stuff out there that I actually really like.
Yeah, I know. It's like it was so funny because when we went to Spain, like our little friend group, I was the only one who took Spanish.
I mean, I was taking Spanish, but
You didn't feel confident.
I didn't feel confident in it.
Like, and so they all kind of turned to me as like, can you tell the waiter exactly what I want to do every time?
Oh my god.
And I was like, and I kind of like leveled a glare at them, and I'm like, whatever. But
I am so sorry.
it's okay. No, it would help. It honestly like totally shot off my Spanish ability way more than school ever could. So it actually worked for me.
Yeah.
So but it was so funny because it was like, no one here is that okay? But anyway, like eating paella and like what was it called? Patata. I think it was like something like this like whatever. I can give it up. But croquetas and like all this different food. Like there was I think I remember there was actually an egg where we just ate hamburgers. And do you remember that guy that like ate like 5 hamburgers and like 6 desserts and or whatever?
I remember that.
Yeah, that was fun. And like eating all that stuff, it's like, oh hey, like all this stuff from around the world is like a million times better than getting a hamburger in my opinion. But and I don't know. I've always grown up around like different like foods and different types of foods because my mom hates getting the same thing every time. So we would get always like. We always had Mexican, like Asian, we had Mediterranean, we had Indian sometimes, we had like Southern food, we had Western, Eastern, like American, like the most American food you can think of. We like
pizza and hot dogs.
Pizza and hot dogs, yes, absolutely. And we just had so much different stuff that going to Spain was honestly like a addition to that, but it was a great addition because now I love everything. I love going to like the tapas restaurants around here now.
Yeah. This has become like its own 4th topic.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay. I like going where the conversation takes.
I'm just, you know what? I'm gonna.
End topic. Books are great.
Yes, books are great. I'm gonna maybe put a little thing that says books, also food.
Also food. Yes, because food is great.
Yes.
And it, like honestly, it shows the culture of a place.
Yes.
Which I love.
As does their literature.
As does their literature. Literature and food.
Yes.
The best indicators of a culture.
Yes. Although there's one thing I'll ask before we move on.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite book or favorite series?
Oh my gosh.
If not, that's fine.
I'm gonna say currently because it changes over time. Like if you asked me maybe like a month ago when I wasn't in my like oh my god I want to read mood at the moment, I would have said Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. Super great. It's like this book series where you take the classic fairy tales of Cinderella and Snow White and Rapunzel and the Red Riding Hood one, the Little Red Riding Hood, like those 4 specifically because those books are based on them. And she catapults those stories 4 centuries into the future, where they've colonized the moon, and because of that, people on the moon have evolved differently than humans and gained powers over basically what you see and what you feel by changing the electrical signals in your brain. Kind of like it's not explained that way, but that's basically what it is.
The superpower nerd in me is very exciting. Exactly,
like taking apart that power. Honestly, I would love to do, but in any case, the evil queen from Snow White, whatever, is the queen there, and she's like, I want to take over the entire Earth for my people.
Oh boy.
And her niece, Princess Celine, is the only thing that could like uphold her because she's a princess and she's not a queen. So she's like, she tries to kill her, doesn't work, and she goes to Earth, and she gets a revolution.
And madness ensues.
Madness ensues, and she wins. Blah blah blah. But anyway, super good, and it was awesome. I remember because there was a reading club in middle school, and like they had a reading list because there was a battle of books at the end, and like it was on there. Cinder, which is the first book, is on there, and I was like, ugh, it's Cinderella retelling. I don't want to read that. And my librarian was like, "You're gonna like it. You should read it." So I was like, "Oh, fine, I'll get the book." And I read it, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's so good! Where's the next one?" And then there was that. And honestly, that was the same thing that happened with Harry Potter too. Actually, believe it or not, my mom got it for me, and I was like, "I'm not gonna read this." And then I did it in secret, and then I loved it.
Yeah, my dad read me, and with a guest appearance on a night or two by a few of my uncles and my mom, they read me the whole Harry Potter series over the course of my childhood.
I still have my original series. It's so worn.
Yeah.
I haven't read it in a while.
Like looking at the
spines.
spines.
Like it says like line.
Yeah.
Like I've read it 20 times. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. My favorite series like now, well, because the show Shadow and Bone came out on Netflix, I've been rereading that series because it's a book series beforehand. Actually, it's 2 book series that they combined into one show, and they did it very well.
All right.
I would recommend it. It's like the first one is the Shadow and Bone series. It's 3 books, and then the second series is Six of Crows. That's 2 books.
I think I've heard of this, but I don't know what it's about.
It's actually kind of a look at Russian culture a little bit. Like it's definitely not Russian, but it's like
It's an examination of Russian culture and life. In a
in
way, maybe.
Sort of. It's based on Russian culture.
Yes.
So they got the Russians.
Maybe not as direct as something like Animal Farm.
No, absolutely not as direct as Animal Farm.
It is?
No.
Oh.
It's not. It's like you can tell it's based off of it, based on the language, but it's not. So we've got Russia, and then you have the Chinese that are you can see them. Then there's Indian, and then there's I think Siberian, which they're like doing different as a different country, but basically that's this world. And there's these people named Grisha. They actually got really scientific with this, that they can use the small sciences, which they describe as being able to manipulate forces around you. Like there's these people called, like I think they're called squallers, who can change the air pressure around themselves in order to manipulate wind and lightning and such, because they can drop the air pressure so low that they can cause lightning, or they can get combustible materials out of the air and throw them together to make a flame, but they need a flint to do that. Or like you can create light. I don't know how doing that, but like mirror piece. I don't know. They make it scientific, but anyway, they're called Grisha, and these people have like banded together and become a second army for the Russian people who are currently fighting a lot of wars.
Yes, as
the Russians do.
as Russia has done throughout its history.
As Russia does. And they're fighting against the Shuhan, which are the Chinese equivalent, and then the Fierdins, which are the Siberian equivalent. And they have this big thing called the Fold, and it's this huge inky black darkness that the Darkling, who can manipulate darkness. I don't know how that is. That's more of a fantasy.
We're getting deep here.
Yes, indeed. I want everyone to read these books because they're good. And it basically cuts their country almost in half. So the main character, Alina Starkov, very Russian last name, but she is a light summoner, which is the opposite of a dark summoner. So she could theoretically eradicate the Fold, which would bring her country together, and it would be good. But she's got to be taught, and also treachery, all that good stuff.
I'm getting Imperium Second Defiance. For anyone who knows anything about Warhammer, do you know anything about Warhammer 40K?
I've heard of it. Is it? I don't know. I've heard of it.
I'll send you some stuff about it.
Well, Imperium.
You've heard of the Imperium?
Maybe like the word Imperium gives me an idea about what's about because.
We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
So that's your favorite books and such.
Yeah. Well, Six of Crows. That series I think is better than the other one.
All right.
It's about basically 6 people coming together to do heist stuff.
Ooh.
Because I love heist stuff.
Yes. Have you seen Ocean's 11?
I've heard. Actually, I brought in to watch that.
Yes, it's good. You should watch it.
I should watch it because
Yes.
I love. Actually, I watched Death on the Nile. That's good.
Yes.
You should watch that.
Yes. Hard segue.
Hard segue, but you should get all of these things.
Yes.
You should read all these books and watch all these movies.
Yes. So now we're talking about education?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. We're talking about education.
Crazy. We're both in college.
Yeah.
It's fun. I go to North Carolina State, and
How's it been so far?
it's been good. It's been good. I like it. It's just, the GEP classes that you have to take, and I've started to question, like, how unnecessary are these, and how much money am I spending on these? Because, so they send out this, actually, what got me prompted to do this, or to think about this, they sent out a survey at the end of the first year saying, how necessary, you can see the table, that's great. How necessary do you think the GEP classes are? Survey. Did you enjoy the GEP classes? Survey. Did you, would you have done this if it was optional? Survey. Like, like I don't even know what they're doing with it, but whatever. And it got me thinking, like, okay, I spend like $30,000 a year, plus, mostly plus, to go to this school. And I'm learning genetics. I don't think that I need to learn statistics. Or, I love English, but did I need to take it? I don't think so. Or,
you might need to take a class on like technical writing.
Well, yeah, we do have to do that for our major, but I totally agree with. But like regular English writing, like an argumentative essay, I don't think I need to do that. Or like, what's another class I took that I kind of thought was useless? It's true though. Like, I feel like just thinking I think I could get over college in like 2 years if I was able to cut out. Everything that I wanted to cut out. Like, oh yeah, physics. I have to take physics next semester for like the physics 2, like electricity, not even real physics, which would maybe be useful, but the electricity, like the
electricity and magnetism.
Yes, and I'm like, do I have to do that? Because I would much rather take a class about microbiology or something.
Yeah. I took the AP class for that in high school. I was kind of lost, but that was mostly because I kept getting distracted. And I'm like, this is kind of boring. I'm just going to surf the internet on my Chromebook when no one can see.
I feel like that was half of my class. Like, I sat in the back, and I just kept seeing, like, during March Madness anyway, I kept seeing every computer having the March Madness, games on their Chromebooks. And I was like, is anyone really paying attention right now?
Yeah. It also, there's a lot about school that has to do with how it's presented to you.
Yeah.
It's not just, do you like your teacher, do you like the class, do you like the people around you, or can you tolerate their BS? It's about how the information is delivered, because the purpose of education, ostensibly, is to prepare you for the working world and to teach you knowledge, which...
Yeah, don't get me over that. I feel like they're about 100 years out of date with how they do that.
Yeah, this may be getting a little bit into current stuff, but I honestly think our education system is kind of outdated. It's
like they put us in a room, or maybe multiple rooms.
Sit in this room, do this thing until the bell rings, till you go do your next thing.
I don't know if that sounds like to you, but I think it sounds like a factory.
Like a factory.
It's like a factory.
That was the...
Or an office building.
Yeah.
Or which people hate doing nowadays.
Yeah.
I know for one, I hate sitting my butt for 8 hours. Like, I work at a vet office. I sit down maybe 6 minutes a day. Exaggeration, but whatever.
Yeah.
I love moving around. I love using my head. I love using my hands, and to just do things. And looking at the way school is structured, I think about it now. I'm like, how much I hated it. Like, sitting in a room for 45 minutes every class, and then just moving on to the next one. I felt like I honestly was in a prison. Which honestly kind of was. We were allowed to leave.
It is in a way. I think the main thing is that there's a lot of people who are just used to school being that way. When there was a lot more risk and there was more manual labor that was going on, we weren't as developed as we are now technologically speaking, it would actually make sense to put you in a place where here's some stuff that you might need to learn if you manage to get beyond this threshold. Most people will not get beyond this threshold, but some will, and they will be able to succeed up there if they have this information.
Right.
It's the same thing as I was saying earlier. there are lots of ways our society hasn't caught up to, or at least our customs and the way systems are run have not caught up to our technological progression.
Yeah, Well, the thing is, like, even thinking about it now, like, what would school be if it wasn't like it was now? Like, how would you test people? How would you know they actually learned something? Like, the way it is now, it's terrible, but it's the only way we think of success as actual success. Like, we've started to see, like, oh, maybe not all people are actually suited for academic life, and they should maybe do, like, what are the trade schools, which are being pushed a little bit more now in high schools, or they should be doing like artistic stuff or like cooking, baking. Like they're starting to do those things with like extracurricular activities, but math is still required, sciences are still required, English is very much still required in schools. Like, we're not there yet. We don't really know what school would look like if it's not what it is now, because we haven't thought about it. We don't know.
Out of the four main academic subjects, the one I think is probably the most necessary is social studies, because there's a lot of, especially the economics side, but also history and just geography, I guess.
Yeah, coincidentally, it's the most boring.
Yeah, I mean, I liked a lot of that stuff mostly because I like history.
Oh, well, yeah, history is fun. I was thinking more of like the geography and like the social sciences stuff.
Yeah, that stuff is a little bit, at least, less necessary.
It's more progressive.
You need to. There's a lot of stuff out there, especially those things that you need to be. You sometimes have to have the right perspective going into it in order to actually get something out of it.
Yeah, but I do think, like, I love the quote, like, those who do not know history are doomed to repeat it.
There are so many variations of that.
There are. It's whatever it is, but everyone knows what it is.
Yeah, those who do not know the past, those who do not remember the past, sometimes it's doomed to repeat it or will always repeat it.
Yeah. I like the doomed part. It's like, cool, it's scary. Yeah. But I totally think it's true. Like, if you don't know what mistakes you've already made, like, how can you make progress if you don't make mistakes? You have to fail to win. Kind of that thing that schools always love to put on, like, those like motivational posters.
Those are so just.
They're terrible, but like, if you think about it, like, it's true. You have to, like, I would always saw this in my math teacher's classroom. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott,
like the basketball one.
Yes.
And it's true, like. But the thing is, humanity likes to swipe all those unfortunate mistakes under the rug. They like to be like, oh, we did it, but like, can we not talk about it because it's embarrassing? Yeah. It's like saying, I don't want to talk about middle school because it was embarrassing and I had a lot of hormones and I didn't know what I was doing. So that's basically the world's version of that.
Oh, I'm just thinking of somebody.
It's the world's music, like the world's middle school. It's like, that's what it is. And now we're in high school as a world. Maybe not college.
I don't know. It goes up and down. We keep getting to some years and then failing horribly.
No, you know what this is freshman year. This is when you're like, I feel like a big kid in high school, but every other grade higher than you is like, no, you're not. You're a middle school kid.
You got stuff to learn.
Yeah, you got stuff to learn. Like, you gotta see your place, and it is not on the top anymore because you're in high school now. You're not in 8th grade. Yeah. Kind of that thing. We're in that phase, but middle school is still like, we want to brush it under the rug, but we can't do that. We have to acknowledge that, say, hey, we did make all these really embarrassing mistakes, and while they suck, we still have to say it happened.
Yes, and we can learn something.
And we can learn something from it. We can say, okay, yeah, slavery was bad, but let's learn from it. Let's say, okay, why did it happen? Not how can we sweep it under the rug this time? Yeah. Kind of a thing. Like, I don't know, but yeah, that's why history is always so important. And everyone thinks it's boring, but I'm like, yeah, it can be boring depending on the teacher. But if you tell it like a story,
it's a story.
It's a story of our world.
I mean, story is in the word history.
Yeah.
It is it is a retelling of past events and lives that have been lived.
Yeah, and you can tell it really great. Like I went to New Orleans one time and we got a tour like on a steamboat, and he told us the story of like Hurricane Katrina, or not Hurricane Katrina, that was a sadder one. But he also told us the story of the Battle of New Orleans.
What
In
conflict was this in?
it was either the Revolutionary War or it was the 18. No, it was Revolutionary War, and it was so funny because he would
Was
tell
there
it.
fighting that got that far down?
Yeah, I did because there it was very not very well known because I didn't hear of it.
Oh.
But it was funny. It was a small skirmish. It was the British. They're being really dumb because they appointed officers based on like nobility.
Yeah.
Not
as
smarts.
As many cultures did in their
Yeah.
military at the time.
Yeah, like the French, the Spanish, the British, every
Europe.
European country, everyone you've heard of, they all did this.
Yeah.
But the Americans didn't because they had no royalty to speak of at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So when their military generals went against the British military generals, like the British made some stupid mistakes. It was hilarious. They made some they would put their men oh shoot, the Americans look like they're fighting over here, but actually there's a huge amount of them over here, and they hid behind this mud wall, and we're just gonna keep running at them even if they just shoot us all the time.
Yeah, battlefield tactics and military history are really interesting.
So much fun to do. But if we didn't know about that, then we can't be like, okay, then maybe people who were born rich, maybe they don't get all the best positions because of that. That's you can apply that lesson here. Like you have to do it based on skill, not who you are.
Yes.
Which
there's people
who apply to education.
Yeah, there's people who would disagree. There's people who would say they agree, but then don't do the thing they say they're going to do.
Yeah, and then those are people who don't learn from really learn from history. Like they look at it, they're like, sure, whatever. Like that was a really dumb mistake for the British to do. And then they're like, anyway, let's go keep funding those really rich Beverly Hills schools or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's the whole thing.
Yeah.
People don't want to see it because they don't want to see their middle school world selves.
Yeah.
They want to see their new high school freshman year selves that still haven't matured, but they're working on it.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to acknowledge because then you have to say, okay, we have feelings as people, and you don't want to do that because you have pride as a people.
Yeah.
I don't want to say America sucks, but sometimes it does.
Sometimes life sucks.
Yeah, sometimes life sucks. People don't want to say that, but it's true.
Yeah.
Rant over.
That was.
That was a long one.
That was a deep portion of our conversation.
I think about it a lot.
I'm not prepared for this on a Wednesday afternoon.
I mean, I've been working for a while, but yeah.
Yeah.
I have a lot of time to think afterwards.
Same. I find myself getting very creative with my as just the day goes on, especially at work and especially at school too.
Oh my god.
I find myself getting very creative with my exclamations of things. I keep subbing in random words in place of I want to swear because I'm tired.
Frick.
But I should
fudge bubbles.
Yes.
I don't swear in college. No,
I've been there's times where I just say something random. I'm like cheese puffs.
Yeah. You know what I really love? Have you seen You've probably seen Madagascar, right? The kids movie.
Yes.
Yeah. So you know when Marty says sugar honey iced tea when the lion comes after him.
Yeah.
And the first letters spell out the bad word. I like to say that because it's not a bad word, but anyone who's knowledgeable enough would know.
There's so many. That's an example. That's there's so many jokes hey kids, you won't understand this, but your parents will.
Exactly. I love that. I love that picture. It's so good at that too.
Yeah.
But I love those so much.
Yeah.
What was our? Oh yeah, it was school.
Education.
Education.
We can tie this back in somehow.
Yeah. Okay. It's nice to. I don't know.
The purpose of education is to learn information.
Sure.
It is to gain an understanding of the world.
A general understanding of the world, so you know what you want to do with life.
So it is to ensure your life is well spent. Yeah. In a way.
I do like that they're we should have kids learn everything before they go to college so that they know what they want to do. I am totally on board for that. But when you say everything, you should mean everything.
That's true. There's a lot of stuff that people think this isn't helpful.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things out there that you know what? Maybe that you could actually use that.
Yeah, choir. Mm-hmm. People sing for a living. That's something people do. You listen to it on the radio all the time. They make boatloads.
You listen to it on YouTube or Spotify or
listen
wherever.
On YouTube, Spotify, whatever. But singing is a job.
Yeah.
And people use it for entertainment, like sports. But yes, sports.
Sports is a job.
Sports is a job. Painting is a job.
anything can be a job if someone's willing to pay you for it.
And most people are willing to pay for it in this day and age. So honestly, if it's so cliche, but if you have a dream, don't give up on it. Because honestly, someone probably in the world is willing to pay you for it.
Yeah, chances are with the amount of variety that exists among people's various interests, there might be someone out there who says, hey, this thing you thought you would never be able to do, I'll pay you to do this.
Yeah, like, because I can't do it, but I'll pay you to do it. Like, you look, like, just watch Shark Tank.
Shark Tank.
Shark Tank. Oh my god. Just watch Shark Tank.
But also Shark Week.
Shark Week's good too.
Sharks are cool.
Sharks are cool. Watch Shark Week. Watch Shark Tank as well.
Yes.
Because you see, like, the weirdest products on that show. But then you think about it and you're like, you know what? That would actually make something in my life much easier, and I might be willing to pay for this. Like, no matter what the sharks think, it's what you think that matters.
Yeah.
Which is why it's broadcasted.
Mm-hmm.
So, but honestly, anything you could do, someone would pay you for. Even snapping. I'm sure snapping's. I can't do it. See, I can't snap.
I'm right-handed. I used to be able to snap well with my right hand, but now I can really do it mostly with my left hand.
See, I wish I could snap. And when I always say I'm like, oh, I can't snap, my mom goes and snaps like 5 times.
It's like whistling.
Yeah.
You just have to keep doing it until you eventually get it.
I can't whistle either. I can't blow bubbles either. With like bubble gum. Can't do that. I've never learned how. But anyway, would I pay someone to snap for me? Probably not. Would I pay for a movie that just has the best crispest snap? Crisp snaps ever?
Yeah.
Maybe I would.
You might.
I might.
Snapping is a tool of rhythm. It's used in music.
Yeah, I would pay to listen to someone snap and sing at the same time.
That'd be cool.
They do that. It's called like jazz and rap and stuff.
Yeah.
And acapella. I would pay to see an acapella concert where snapping is like where they do the beat and such. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Like anything you think you do well, someone would probably pay for somehow.
And education, in my opinion, should be more about fostering an actual ability in someone.
Yeah,
not as much. Knowledge is important. Knowledge can take you so many places and is a gateway to so many different things. But you need to have the ability and the knowledge.
Yeah, like you need to be able to do things as well as think things.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of people today who think things but don't do. Actually, honestly, the whole the motto of North Carolina State is think and do, and it's honestly that for a reason. Like everyone thinks. If you don't, you're brain dead. But everyone thinks about things. They think about doing things. They think about the philosophy of things. But not a lot of people do things because one, it was probably never taught to them to do things, or they just never thought about it. Like two, they're scared to do the thing, or like they don't think they're good enough. Is there a third? I don't know. I'm just gonna stop at 2. And I just like
doing things is hard.
It is hard. Doing things 3. Doing things is really hard.
Yeah.
Like, for example, when Tom here was like, "Hey, do you want to be on my show?" or like on YouTube, and I was like, maybe tentative yes, maybe okay. And then he's like, "Hey, I'm free today." I was like, okay. And then,
oh my god.
But it took me a while to say, okay, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to be here, and I'm going to philosophically talk about things.
Yes.
It took me a while to do it, like to decide doing it. I mean, I had a long drive home, so I had a lot of time to think about it. But the amount of thinking and doing, it was probably like 13 to 1, like thinking versus doing. I thought about it a lot, and then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it because that's a new experience for me. I've never been on YouTube like this before. I've done it for school, but I've never done this before, so I'm gonna do it. And I'm sure that 80% of the population would have been like, you know what, today doesn't work for me. Maybe never. Probably. Or I'm really busy this weekend. I can't do it. And they wouldn't have done it. Like, it's really hard to do things. It's really easy to think things. And people like to take the easy way out, generally.
Yeah.
But you have to be taught to do things or you'll never get anywhere in life. I think that's where schools struggle.
Yeah.
Teaching people to do things.
Yes. If I heard one example that I'll use to close this topic.
Okay.
There's one podcast that I listen to, one that talks about some current things, some just general pop culture stuff. And the one of the people on it said this is a way that he would improve education, or at least a scenario he's coming up with.
Yeah.
There should be a Pokemon class.
That would actually, because you do a lot.
Like, seriously. Like, where you learn how to play the Pokemon card game or the video game, and you teach someone critical thinking and strategy and planning ahead, and you make it fun for a kid. You can be like, hey, here's these creatures fighting each other. It's cool.
It's like make them win.
Yes, and then there's make them win. Find out the strategy to win.
Yeah.
What's the probability that they're going to do this or this?
Yeah, you can teach statistics.
Mm-hmm.
You can teach critical thinking. You can teach.
If it's involved
like
in a
determination.
If it's involved in a board game or a strategy game, you can teach it with Pokemon.
Yeah, you can, and you can honestly everyone would scoff at that idea, oh, that's not how school's supposed to be done. But if you think about it, it really teaches you what statistics did not teach me. I took it last semester. But if it had been a Pokemon statistics class, how do you win? Maybe it'd taught me better. Who knows?
Yeah, education does not have to be. Academic stuff is interesting, but education does not have to be so dry all the time.
No.
It can be fun, and maybe that's what ought to be done. Who knows?
Yeah, because then that way you can make kids actually want to.
Kids will want to learn and enjoy school.
They do that anyway. They want to learn anyway.
Yeah.
But somehow schools make it so boring that they don't.
Yeah.
So if you make them want to learn, they will learn. They will learn more than what you think.
Yes. Long story short, petition your school board to get someone who knows a lot about Pokemon to make a Pokemon class.
Exactly. Just do that, and then your school will be the best school in the state.
Yes.
Do not take our disclaimers as fact. This is not legal advice.
This is not legal advice. This is us joking because.
Yeah. Don't take us as fact. Don't sue us.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. Then our last topic.
Sure.
Writing.
I have written since I went to my brother's book fair in elementary school at Town Line, which is a big warehouse elementary school in our town. And I saw a journal there, they always sell journals, the little tchotchkes. It had a big old dragon on the front. And I was like, Mom, can I get that? And because my mom was so tired of me talking out loud all the time, telling little stories to my dolls and such, she's like, you know what, Emily? I will buy it for you if you write down what you say. And I said, deal. So I brought it home and I started writing, and I have 10 notebooks that I've filled with different stories that I've made up and or done fan fiction about, but I don't do it. Just look it over. It's fan fiction, but it's not like the fan fiction everyone thinks about when they think about fan fiction. It's just stories with people in it. And I've done it so much that honestly English became boring for me because I was like, I can do all this already. I don't need to do peer review, and I don't need to do. And honestly, if anyone did ask me to peer review their essay, I would mark it up with red so much it would look like they didn't write anything.
Yeah.
In my English class in college, my partners who would always have to pair up with me, they'd be like, okay, please be kind today. And I was like, you think I will never be kind to you? No. I will destroy your writing, and I will make it all red because it is all wrong. But I honestly, I tried to have my teachers edit some of the stories I wrote, but they just kind of said I don't have time for it. So I kind of lost faith in English class in school for another reason. But I wrote on my own, and I wrote more and more and more until I found, I'm pretty good at it. And then I said, you know what, I can be an authority on writing. So if any friend comes to me, he's like, you know what, I'm writing this thing. You know what, I can edit for you.
Yeah.
I can write it all in red.
Yeah, I have, since, like I said, I wanted to be an author since I was little, but I think when I was a kid, I was honestly too naive, just in general, to really write anything of substance.
Right.
Because I just wasn't able to, I didn't have the planning skills when I was younger. now that I do, and I actually have some experience writing some things that I'm actually proud of.
Right.
Some of them are for school, which are more technical about subjects that I enjoy. Some of them are creative on my own. I'm like, huh, this excites me.
Yeah. Sometimes I go back to my writings and I read them through again, and for the first couple pages, I'm like, ugh, God, how sucky was I? Then I go to the end where like because I do my like writings over years, so you can like see the changes.
The progression.
Yeah, and at the end it's like, oh, this doesn't suck. Did I write this?
Yeah.
Did I write this?
Yeah.
And it's really awesome to just see that in yourself. And like maybe I didn't have anything much of substance to write when I was little, but now I do, and I can look back on that. And I can say, you know what, I sucked at writing back then, like majorly. If you could see the spelling mistakes I made, oh my god. But now I can say that I'm much better. It's kind of like art. Like you can look back at your art from years ago and say, oh my god,
I have little artistic skill outside of here's a drawn thing with simple lines.
I started drawing in 7th grade, and now I'm still drawing, and I've gotten pretty good at it. I would say so, maybe. But just I love subjects that have progression like that. Like you can see how much better you are than when you started, and that's hard to see for a lot of subjects. So I love writing that way. Like you can like go back and say, you know what, I did suck then, but that's because I was like 5 or 6 years younger than I was now, and no one really taught me how to do grammar, and no one really taught me how to like develop a storyline. But now I know because I've read a lot of people's writings, and I've read my own writing, and I've edited it. So just seeing that always makes me really proud of what I've accomplished.
Yeah, writing is one of those things that at least right now, there in many ways is a lot more to gain from experience. Actually reading other people's work, writing your own, making comparisons, getting critiqued by other people, as opposed to what you can learn from honestly a classroom setting. Because here's all these things you gotta know, and all these mechanics. I'm like, okay, what do I do with this? And then you read it and you're like, oh, you read years later something, and it's like, oh, okay, I get why this was necessary, but you could have presented it better.
Yeah, it's like I wasn't really formally taught grammar until freshman year of high school, which my mom thought was really awful.
I kind of learned it over time, but pre high school Tom's grammatical skills were just like, I don't understand what's going on here.
No way. I was terrible. It was really bad. But we can get like back to why you should be taught grammar in elementary school later. But learning grammar in high school, it was weird because it was stuff I already knew, sort of, because I'd written so much up to that point because I started writing in like 5th or 6th grade. So when I got there and they were like, here's the proper uses of they, there, and there, and here are the proper ways to use a comma, and here's what run-on sentences are. And I was weird learning it because it was like, yes, it's a new subject, but I also kind of already knew it. It's like just from reading our other people's works, from writing my own and saying, you know what, that doesn't sound right to me, and fixing it. And it was so weird because if I just learned it in a classroom setting, I probably would have never grasped it. It's only from doing it yourself and reading other people's works and experiencing it for yourself that you really understand those messages. And it's hard to just tell someone, yeah, you need to put a comma here, here, and here, because every sentence is different. Every sentence is different. So you can't teach someone where to put a comma on every sentence because you'll never get anywhere. You have to know it in your heart where a comma would go, or where a period would go, or where a quotation mark. That's what's so hard. Quotation marks,
especially where a semicolon goes.
Oh, I gave up on that thing years ago. I was like, you know what, semicolon, I don't need you. Periods work just fine. And they tried to teach it in high school, and I was like, nope. That did not work out. I don't like semicolons. Why do they exist?
It's weird because English is a weird language.
Yeah, it is. And anyone who learns it as a second language, I didn't, so I think it's normal. But anyone who learned it as a second language is like,
What's
why?
going on?
What's going on? Why is this pronounced the way it is?
English is so many other languages thrown into a blender.
Yeah.
With clear inspiration from several roots like Latin, going all the way back to ancient Greek, a lot of Mediterranean stuff, but also other things just from other places.
Yeah, it's honestly like the melting pot of a language, which is ironic because it's also like America. It's also like the melting pot of cultures, which is cool. But supposedly, I don't know. I feel like a lot of countries can boast that. But
yeah,
it depends.
It depends on. Everywhere is a mix of various things.
We just became a mix of a lot of very different cultures.
Yes.
Because we have a nice huge ocean to
we got two huge oceans.
We have two huge oceans to like disconnect us from other places. So everyone's like, let's go.
I mean, the whole thing about history that I like to remember. Oh, we got to the end of this land. We can't go anywhere. Then I say, wait, we can walk here?
We can walk here. We can go here for like a couple million years.
Now we can't walk here anymore.
Shoot, I guess we'll start settling.
Yeah.
But it's honestly, what was the point of that? Wait, my brain just farted real quick.
We're talking about the.
I was trying to connect it back to writing somehow.
It's.
Oh yeah, it's like a blend.
Yeah.
Of your own personal.
It's a blend of your own personal experiences
and the world's.
And the world
whole thing.
And the world that
like you see like, it's so hard to write English well. Like you see these like Harvard professors, and even they make mistakes in grammar because that wasn't how they would speak. They would speak maybe with a.
There's a lot about how we speak that is different from how you are supposed to write.
Yeah, like I used to write in middle school before I started like really bringing my writing into school, and I got better grades in English as a result. But I used to try and be like, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna write this rigid English behavior. I'm gonna do exactly word for word what these teachers want from me, and it didn't work out. That's the thing, because it lacked a voice, it lacked evidence, lacked reason, and because it was obvious. It was robotic.
Yeah.
It was very obvious, and then I started. I was like, you know what? English, I shouldn't think of it as separate from writing. It is writing, but it's what someone else wants me to do.
Language is writing.
Yeah.
Writing is just language spelled out for you specifically.
Yeah. So I brought my own writing style in, and then I started getting better grades, and I started trying less. I could try less because
You didn't have to actively think all the time about, okay, how am I exactly going to do this?
Yeah, and I could let it all I had to do with those like essays we had to write in one class period, the only thing I had to think about was the first sentence, and then off to the races. And everyone was like, how do you do that? I'm like, you know what, I write in my voice, and that's how I do it, and it sounds right to me, and it sounds right to teachers because they can hear me saying it. And they know it's me that would say it because I talk like that all the time, and I bring that evidence in, I bring the analysis in, and I do that. So it's honestly kind of sad. Like, I talk so much crap about other people's writing, but I see myself in middle school in them and their writing because it's so robotic. And it's like, this is clearly not you. Clearly, this is English. Don't write English, write you, because you will enjoy it more, you will put more into it, and you'll put more reasoning into it. And that's how you get better grades, honestly.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Like, put you into your writing. Don't put this, like, weird robotic English that schools want to teach you. Like, they want to teach you how to write, like, so it actually is coherent, which is admirable. But they want to teach you, but you have to teach yourself what you want to sound like. And that's my concluding sentence right there.
Yes, that makes quite a lot of sense. So in terms of, like, is there anything specific that you are writing now? Alright, so, like, what kind of stuff are you writing right now, at least?
Okay, so I've been kind of thinking about, because of the whole Avengers thing, like the multiverse idea. It's like, and even, what's that his name? It was like Steven Spielberg, right? That was his name. He was like, yes, parallel universes could exist because they could all be on separate wavelengths and all that.
Wait.
Jazz.
The director?
No,
The director?
no, sorry, no. It was like the smart guy who could like.
Doctor
like,
Strange.
No, he's
Iron Man.
real
Tony
guy.
Stark.
He's real. And that like remember the guy in like the wheelchair who like he couldn't move but his brain was amazing.
Professor X.
No, it was real, like a real guy in real
Stephen
life.
Hawking.
That guy, Stephen Hawking. Like I knew it was the Stephen Hawking. He was like he I think he proposed the theory of parallel universes, or it was him or Einstein. Probably Einstein. But anyway, one of the really smart dudes.
I think that was Stephen Hawking because Einstein's stuff was more physics-ish.
Yeah. But anyway, one of the very smart people in this world said that parallel universes could be real, and it's so weird to think about. Like another world could be, I could be a billionaire, or I could be a revolutionary, or I could be a criminal. Like it's weird to think that because you think, oh, I could never.
I could be a vampire.
I could be a vampire. Like that's the whole thing. It's like you.
Everything could be the exact same except for one particle that is a millionth of a millimeter to the right.
Yeah,
and nothing else is different.
Yeah, and but it could be different. So I thought about that whole thing, and you know how I am a kid at heart. You know how like Disney movies like you could connect them all theoretically.
Yeah. I've seen those theories.
Yeah. So I thought, you know what? What if I made up a species, like an ancient species that's been there almost since the dawn of time, that watched all of these stories from different worlds and could just traverse the multiverse easily and just watched all these stories. And that's like the reason everyone has them. Just because they saw this like this girl named Cinderella. Oh, Cinderella. Interesting. Okay, and then they watched them and they saw what happened, and that's there we go. That's how you have the story. And it's kind of like the narration from someone else's point of view other than like the I or the she, like the third or first person point of view. It's like it is the one step removed from that. Like you don't see someone's emotions, but you see who they are. Like it's almost like a movie, but in writing form. Because like you see all these like fan fictions about like reactions to this, or like the characters reacting to their own show, kind of thing. And I was like, you know what? Like, what if it was a different person reacting to it, but it was a real thing, not like one of those things you do for the lulz. Like, it's a species that they're literally, like, you know the Watcher from Marvel, like that What If show? Literally, that's what it is. Like, someone who watches but can't do anything, watches all these stories and can't do anything.
Yes, I must sit forever by watching the world turn on.
That. But eventually, you know, the story gets interesting. They do something. But anyway, but that kind of a thing. Like a species of beast, because it's not humanoid, that watches and listens and compiles these stories. Like but that's not all they do.
Just checking the time.
Yeah, that's not all they do. They also protect all the multiverse against this like super evil, because you know I have to add some conflict. Like this super evil species called the Navi that were cursed by a sorcerer almost since the dawn of time, and their only thing they want to do is destroy. You know what? Like they want to destroy light and dark and happiness, and so you know these like fictional heroes of these different multiverse places, they're like prime targets because you know they're always like, I'm gonna save the world, or I'm gonna get this prince and I'm gonna be happy. And like
this character is special.
I'm going to kill them. So the whole thing of like I just call them the Watchers. Super original, I know.
Sure.
But they
Disney is totally not gonna say infringement of copyright or something.
No, yeah, that's why I haven't read it yet. I haven't. If I do read it, it's gonna be like a fan fiction thing. It's not gonna be a real book. Well, unless I have to go to Disney. Hey Disney, do you mind super much about these really classic movies that you read? Just the whole concept of it, like the multiverse, but also having a purpose that removes you from people, but also connects you to them in a way that no one else knows. Like they know everything.
Yeah, it's like real people with fictional characters, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. Like that whole connection between. I've never thought about it. Yes, that connection.
The line between reality and fiction is surprisingly thick at times and surprisingly thin at many others.
Yeah, like if you had the chance to go up, because a lot of people know this, to go up to like Harry Potter, because a lot of people have read it, and save Hedwig from death, would you do it?
Maybe.
I
don't know.
I would. It's an owl. Of course I would.
I mean, I guess.
Or save Bad Eye Moody, or save Fred.
Yeah.
Or save
I don't think any of their deaths would make change the plot too much. So
No, yeah, I would do it. Like I would do it, and that's the whole thing. It's like this whole species is forced not to. They can't do anything to prevent, and that's the whole one of the whole arguments of should they help, should they not? Because they run an experiment where they do help and see if it changes much. Because they can also see the future somehow a little bit, not that much, but they
somehow,
not somehow, like sometimes.
Oh.
Like they can, but they can't do it that well, which is why they
Okay.
have to watch all the time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That would negate the whole point of them watching.
Yeah.
So, but like, how far would you go to ensure happiness for those you care about? Because also the person you care about, maybe they're the villain. Maybe some of the watchers really like the villain, what they're doing. If they decide to help them, then that destroys the world. So it's the whole thing. It's like, how far would you be willing to go to help the person that you actually like the fictional character versus reader thing. If I was able to change the fate of the Marvel universe, which there's so many fan fictions about that, I read them all, because I want to get inspiration, but also they're really good. How much would you reveal? How would you tell Iron Man that Bucky killed his parents immediately? Or would you wait and say maybe like a better time for that or something like? How much would you meddle?
Yeah.
Basically, the whole thing. How much would you meddle?
Yeah, I'm a comics nerd. I'm thinking about the differences. How would that be taken in the movies versus how would that be taken in the comics?
Right.
Honestly,
yeah.
If you ever want the most fascinating but at the equal times the most complete BS of a world writing wise, Marvel and DC comics. Death is never permanent.
It's never permanent.
Death is permanent, except everybody always comes back, except for like
those like
two characters.
Well, there's the whole thing, and then comics love doing those like world shattering events.
There's some. I'm
reboot everything.
I'm salty about this. DC, what are you DC Comics, what the flip are you doing? Every couple of years, big reinvention. This is going to be some big new thing a few years later. We're going to do it again. Just pick one.
Yeah. Like, I also, taking from Marvel, like, there's this whole storyline where Scarlet Witch gets rid of...
House of M.
House of M gets rid of
M.
every
So good.
mutant.
Read House of M.
Yeah, House of M, which is what not Multiverse Madness, but WandaVision is sort of based off of.
It's a similar concept.
Yeah, but it's not the outcome is not the same.
I mean, there's a realistic chance we may get an actual House of M.
Oh, I hope not. God, I love Scarlet Witch.
I hope it isn't crappy.
Yeah, like Multiverse Madness was terrible, and I was like, no, I love her. Why did you make her the worst villain in the world with no conscience?
You rushed the progression.
Yeah.
You can do that. It just needs to be done slow.
It was just COVID. COVID totally messed everything up.
Yes.
Which it's whatever.
Yeah, that's the trademark phrase that everybody says.
COVID messed it up.
COVID messed everything up.
And it did. It did.
Yeah, it kind of did. It kind of did.
It kind of did, but you could also think about it and say, maybe we should think about this instead of just churning out shows and movies every week. But whatever.
They're slowing down.
They are.
And they just moved several movies back by like at least a year.
Which is good. It's good that they're taking their time.
Yeah.
Because everyone's starting to like lose faith in them.
Yes. Like, plus the writer strike is.
Yeah.
Several strikes are not helping.
No. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
They're getting back on their feet.
Yeah, they're getting back.
Which is good because that was my whole childhood. I got premiere tickets for Infinity War. That was great.
Yes.
That was good. But honestly, like that whole concept of like how much would you meddle? It's that you have to think about that. It's like it brings up a lot about you. It brings up a lot about what these stories are meaning to you, and it's something that it's been discussed, I'm sure, in like all these, or it's been thought of, but I don't think it's really been like really done, like looked into like into the meat of that thing.
Yeah, it's a concept I'm interested in too. Some of you may know about this if you know me. I know you know about this.
Yeah.
I've asked you about it.
Yes.
The idea of how much should you meddle is one of the ideas I've been working on or wanting to include. I have wanted to write a superhero story since I learned what superheroes were.
Oh, yeah, always.
And mostly because, hey, a guy with a sword and a guy shooting fire out of his hands or whatever. I thought it was cool when I was little.
It's cool. It is
Yeah.
cool. It's cool for everyone.
Yeah. I've been tossing around an idea for a universe since like what year was I in eighth grade? Since like 2016. It's been like 7 years.
So well.
And I only recently actually started to write something. That's an idea I'm interested in as well. How much should you meddle? I'm asking it in a different way though.
Yeah.
Not as much the alternate universe thing, but the idea of how much should you meddle is interesting to me because I'm interested in things like history, you know, and the idea of what is a society.
Right. So it's like not how much would you meddle if you got the chance to save someone else that you'd known forever, but like how much you meddle like if you were given the ability to do it.
Yeah.
Like in a more simple way.
Yes. It's
kind
not
of a thing.
It isn't much how much it isn't for me, at least the way I was hoping to write it. It's not quite how much would you meddle, how much should you?
Right. That's a whole
Yes.
different conversation.
Yes.
Because it takes into account morality.
Yes. Where is it appropriate, if at all,
to meddle?
in a world where there's things so simple as I can move the mouse across the table without my hand,
right,
to someone who can reach out, completely change the molecular structure of this computer, and
make it a gun.
Make it a gun, or make it into anything else, or spontaneously just make it combust.
Yeah, like how much should you do that?
In a world where you can do that, that strangely parallels real life, why and where do you get the right to meddle?
So basically, you want to dive into the Sokovia Accords.
I suppose.
But in a, like a less corrupt way.
A way that isn't necessarily focused on government.
Right, but like the idea of it, like how much should you meddle?
The idea of it, yes.
Yeah, the idea of it. But that's an interesting thing because it doesn't even think of like how much would you do. It's how much like should you do with the people that like it takes into account how it would affect others. Like, yes, I would go and save Hedwig, but would that change anything? Should I save Hedwig? Should I protect these characters' lives at the possible expense of others?
This is why all the metaphysical, like, extensions of reality type concepts are so interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's why I'm interested in things like time travel, alternate dimensions, and alternate universes. It's why Inception was my favorite movie until I watched a very low budget movie about a guy learning that he wants to make cheese because he's bored with his life.
That's always the best movies.
Yeah, yeah. My number one. Go check out the movie countdown. If you can find it on the internet, watch Artois the Goat. It's so stupid, but it's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the idea of a difference between what life is and what life might be is something I'm very interested in.
Yeah, like, because everyone can think of, oh, in the perfect world, this is what it would be, but how would we get there? How would we do that? And would it actually be feasible? It comes back to, like, that utopian discussion we had earlier.
Yes.
Everyone can think of a utopian world, but would it be feasible? Should it happen? Kind of a thing. It's interesting to think about. It's like, you can write about it and think about it and theorize about it all day, but at the end of the day, we don't know.
Yeah.
Because anything can happen.
Writing fiction, at least, is a question of what if the world was not as it currently is?
Yeah.
And you can ask just about any question about. You can ask just about any question.
Yeah, exactly. Like even the weird ones, like, should vampires sparkle?
Should these vampires be fighting these werewolves?
Should this woman potentially mate with a werewolf?
I mean, hey, you want to be honest about it. Vampire versus werewolf war.
Would be cool.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Just not that genre.
No.
And if it is that genre, not as poorly written, not smacking of a mid-2000s fanfiction.net post.
Oh, fanfiction.net. Oh, gross. But yeah, I'm like, everyone knows what we're talking about right now.
Sure.
Or they should. If they don't, then ask a book friend. Say, okay, in what book does a vampire fight a werewolf? They'll know exactly what it is. But it's like kind of a thing. It's like, if you think of these things, inherently, there is a universe where they exist. would that look like? Should it happen? Would it happen? And what would that look like to you? Because you're the one thinking of it. And therefore your bias clouds that reality. And might not be what it really is, but it's what you think it is, and that's what's important.
Yeah.
It's literally providing a window into a different parallel universe in a way that writes it down on a page and allows other people to see it.
Yeah, for easy transmission and easy understanding through translation.
Yep. And it is a look at a parallel universe. It's actually, you know what? We should make that like a poster, like reading a window to a parallel universe kind of thing. And
I've heard expressions like that before.
Yeah, like, well, that's really cheesy. I bet I could make it cooler.
We could probably make it.
We could probably make it cool. Like, so actually, like reading it sounds like a cool thing. Like maybe like read a scientific fact before it or something about parallel universes. I don't know. But it always comes back to the fact that everything exists inherently. The question is, how are we going to portray it? Kind of thing.
Someone just has to come up with it.
Yeah. All you have to do is think and do.
Yeah. Sometimes all you need to do is get some inspiration.
And actually write it down.
Write it down. Get a page in front of you and say, I'm gonna...
Get a hand cramp. Get a hand cramp writing it.
Get a hand cramp or exhaust your fingers flying across a keyboard so fast that...
Yeah, go... Like, get the nubs down to the knuckle, and you've done it. And you've brought a parallel universe into your world in a way that other people can see it, and they can judge it, and they can make their own. Yeah.
If that isn't cheesy, I don't know what it is.
It's so cheesy.
Yeah.
It's very cheesy. If I was a teacher, I would be like rolling your eyes like crazy, like, oh my god, miss, oh my god, you're so boring.
Yeah. It's like there comes a point where you're just saying words, and it doesn't matter what they are.
Yeah. Because infinitely, they can mean different things.
That's true.
There could be an English where, like, the word bad means good or something.
I remember I was just randomly messing around on the internet.
Yeah, as one does.
And I commented this for some reason. I don't know why I was mad, but it was like, a phone could have been called a yellow.
I hate that.
Yellow could have been called, the color yellow could have been called book.
Yeah,
and book could have been called phone.
It could have, if circumstances were different. In another world, they probably were.
Yes, the whole evolution side of languages got complete can of worms for other more scientifically minded discussion.
Yeah, you could take a college class on it.
Yeah.
Honestly, you could. You could take a college class on a lot of things we've been talking about.
Yeah. Thing with college is though, a lot of classes I'm like, hey, I like this subject. I want to learn some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Wait, this isn't being taught to me the way I thought it was going to be taught to me. I want things about books, not your opinions on current issues.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. I had a great teacher. I took ancient Mediterranean history, and he that was all he did. He told me the story of the Romans, basically. And we talked about it, and we literally went through it together, like, what do you think this passage means? Or what do you think that they could have thought about it? Because he, literally the first day, he was like, we as humans think about things right now, modern world, in a certain way. The Romans thought of them in a completely different way, because that's what their circumstances allowed.
Yeah.
Like, slavery back then was like, yeah, if you lose, that's what happens. Like, it wasn't, like, based on race or based on, like, wealth or anything. It was a way of life. Now we think of it completely differently than what they did. They just thought of it like, oh, this person, they unfortunately are on the losing side. That's
because our circumstances have changed.
Yeah, and so we have to think about that. Like, he told us, you have to think about that. You have to think, they could have thought of this circumstance completely differently than we would interpret it as. So he was amazing because he recognized that. Most teachers are like, this is what I think history is. And he was like, no, this is what history presents to us, and we have to make conclusions based on it.
Yes. Yeah.
So I love that teacher. I gave him like 5 stars on his reviews or whatever.
I surprisingly I really enjoyed actually like a basic like communications class where we were learning about like argumentation, how to debate. Yeah. It's something ordinarily that I might have just thought, oh, that's kind of interesting, and I might not look at it again. But the teacher made it interesting because we talked about like stuff that we're just interested in.
Yeah.
We talked about Pokemon one day.
Yeah.
And it was.
I'm hoping I have a teacher like that because I'm required to take it for my major.
Yeah. I guess the main thing is try to bring in a subject you have true interest in, and you can make it almost fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you think about it a different way, and often in that way, you'll learn more than you ever would if you thought about it the traditional way.
Yeah. Then that's really what writing is.
Yeah.
It is the translating and dissemination of information.
Yeah.
And the purpose of it is to be an expression of what we see.
And of what you think and what you interpret as something else.
Yeah.
And everyone reading what you write is going to think differently than what you thought when you wrote it. And that's okay, because everyone's brains are different.
Yeah.
And that's what you wrote it for, is everyone to think of it.
That's why we write and why we have ideas in the first place.
For our interpretation, for others' interpretation.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because without them, we die.
Yeah, exactly. We die.
If we don't think, we die.
Even fish think. Even if it's rudimentary. They think.
Yeah.
And if it didn't, they die. Yeah. Because, I think the one exception maybe is jellyfish. They don't think, and they get along pretty well.
Yeah.
Actually.
Maybe we don't need to think.
Maybe we don't. Maybe we can just all become jellyfish.
Sure. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
But at least the perfect, or at least maybe we might all become jellyfish someday. But maybe we'll have a show like this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think that's a good note to end on. Yeah. So, anyways, this has been Tom from the Golden Jungle Tree Sheep. Thanks for watching this episode of Spiel. Thanks, Emily, for coming on.
Of course, yeah. It was great to be here to talk about everything.
Talk about nerd things.
And nerd things. I love it.
Yeah. So, there will be more updates soon, and I will see you all later.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.